Namaste and welcome everyone. We are back again with lesson number 7 today. We are going to explore classifications. We're going to get into a little bit of a teaching vocabulary and then some considerations again that we need to do. I'm going to start this section off as theory, and then we're actually going to get onto our maths, and we're going to just really explore a little of the things that I'm going to bring up and mention. All right, so straight into the classification of asanas. As in one of the previous lessons, we said that classifications would be either standing, seated, or lying. Prone, which is lying face down on your tummy so that you can do your cobras, your locusts, your bows, things like that. Or supine, lying face up, where we often do things like candles, bridges, and pelvic tilts, all those kind of things. All right, we like to include in our classes being in all of those positions. Standing, again, is one of the postures where you can really work into the feet, work with the apana vayu and moving down. So it is a form of being grounded, but also where you've got the space around you to feel the lightness of the upper body. Seated is a little sometimes more grounding than standing postures because you're closer down to the ground. And it's very nice, again, to start off in this position because we've started with our 3 arms, and then to kind of slowly move and awaken the body. And lying, especially lying supine, so on your back, is one of the most grounding kind of positions you can be in, literally because so much of your body is in contact with the earth. And it really allows you to feel completely supported by the ground. The same with lying on the abdomen. Really try and just explore and experience how it feels to be lying on your back versus lying on your tummy. And sometimes if you've had a very frenetic day and you just feel that you really need to ground, coming down and lying even on your tummy, on the earth, on the ground, on the soil, on the grass or whatnot, can really help you to relax and release somewhat. So have a kind of look at those ways of grounding yourselves and how you would use kind of the focus on the feet to ground when you're standing versus grounding down through the sitting bones when you're seated, and versus just allowing the whole body to relax and release when you're in a lying position and there's so much contact of your physical body to the earth. All right, so we do like to include at least a posture in all of those positions if it's suitable for your class. In addition, we can also classify postures as forward bends, backward bends, spinal twists, inversions, balances, and your lateral or your hip kind of stretches. Why we want to try and include all of these is for the integrity of the spine. In your notes, there is a whole little info on forward bend, backward bend, spinal twists, all of the things that we've covered. Have a read through those. And again, it'll just get you in touch as to why you really want to be making sure you have each of these classifications in a yoga class. Pretty much what it comes to is when you're thinking of your spine, you want your spine to move in all directions. So you want your spine to be able to move forwards into a forward bend. You want your spine to be able to move backwards into a backward bend. You want it to be able to twist nicely so that you're really working with all the vertebrae. You want to be turning your spine upside down, yourself upside down, your spine upside down, because the weight is often going in this direction. When we turn ourselves upside down, I can't keep my arms in that position while I'm sitting. When we turn the spine upside down, we now have gravity moving in the direction of where our head is, instead of where our feet normally are. So it's really important just to do that. Again, the balances help us to create a little bit more strength and stability in the spine. And then our lateral stretches work sideways, which is probably I need to be doing this, which means that all the directions of the spine, the spinal column get worked, as well as kind of like building strength. So we really do want to try and ensure that we include as many of these classifications in a class as possible, ideally all of them if you can. And that's what I'm going to say on classifications. Have a read through the notes. They're nice in depth and in detail. You would have covered them with Jennifer as well. So it'll just be a little recap for you today. All right. Teaching vocabulary, and here we're going to explore and experiment. And this is where your yoga class becomes you, because this is where you get to bring your voice and your personality and how you like to portray and explain and express postures. This is where you get to be beautifully creative. And it's something that will come with time. Generally, when we communicate with our students, we communicate our desire or objective. That's pretty much what we're wanting. We're wanting a student to do something. We're wanting them to bring the arms up. We're wanting them to bring their hands to the heart center. And we pretty much give instructions in 3 ways. One is spoken instruction, so verbal cueing. Inhale, drawing the arms up, and exhale, releasing the arms down. The second way is demonstrating. So again, you showing them what you want them to do. And the third one is physical adjustments, where you're actually placing your hands on your student and you're helping to navigate what it is you're wanting them to do. You can do one of them. Generally, when we're in a class, we will use all 3. What you want to be mindful of when it comes to the spoken word is exactly how you're saying things. And we'll play on the mat in a moment with a couple of examples there. Demonstrations, when it comes to demonstrating your postures, especially if you're in a big class, sometimes it's really nice, like you've seen at Primrose Studio, to have a little bit of a podium so that students don't need to look past other students to try and see what it is you're doing and what you're demonstrating. And I know at Ananda Kutia, they have it as well. And it's just nice to have that raised platform for the student, for them to be able to see you with more ease. Not always possible. My studio doesn't have it. So again, just play with the space that you have and what is possible and doable. So if there is a space where you're able to be a little bit higher, do so. Use it for your benefit. All right. So that is on silent. That is demonstrations. Also, you want to demonstrate for a purpose. You never want to demonstrate because you're wanting to show off. You want to demonstrate so that something is clear to your students. And when you demonstrate on, for example, one side, you want to either make sure that you demonstrate on the other side as well, or when you're then giving verbal instructions or watching your student, that you're actually doing it yourself. This is a big mistake that many yoga students who become teachers do. And I will definitely agree that I've fallen into this category, is that we often demonstrate one side, and then we're so busy getting involved in our students and watching them and telling them what to do that we actually don't do the other side. And then that's when you start creating a little bit of imbalance in your own body with time. You don't notice it from class to class, but after a couple of years of teaching, then you slowly start to figure out, oh my goodness, why is this side so much looser or stronger or feels different to the other side? So either make sure you always alternate, or that ideally you do however many you've done on the right side when you're demonstrating, the same amount on the left side. All right. So that's it with demonstrations. And then physical adjustments. This is where you've got to be very, very mindful when you're doing in-person classes. there's been so much news in the yoga world and sphere with regards to hands-on adjusting and adjusting in the inappropriate positions. So when it comes to students coming to your yoga class, especially if you don't know them, if they're new, and you want to do physical hands-on adjustments, you need to ask a student, can I touch you? Would you like me to help you? Whatever the story is. Not all students want physical adjustments. Generally, when we're in maybe a workshop or a teacher training, it's a given fact that because we're in this space, physical adjustments are a part of training. But when it is your own yoga class with your students, just make sure that you check in, especially with new students. Some students you get to know and they're just very happy for you to gently massage them when they're in a child's pose. If maybe something's kind of happened in a student's life and maybe you just need to back off a little, or maybe ask them again if maybe it's been something that they've been comfortable with you doing, touching them in the past. So being mindful and aware of where your students are in your class. I remember that I once, when I was teaching in-person classes, I used to do it a lot when students would be in a child's pose or a frog, and I'd come and just gently massage the lower back or kind of work my hands up their spine. And every single student loves it and always has loved it. But I would always ask, every single time I would do it, nearly every single time, or at least when I had a new student, is there anyone who doesn't want me to touch them? And I had a yoga teacher come to my class, and so I just assumed that, she would be very happy with adjustments, because most of us yoga teachers are just happy to have hands-on contact. But kind of I'd remember that, this concept of always asking permission first. So she'd arrived in the class, everyone was in the child's pose, and I started doing my rounds with those, regular students. And then I just mentioned, is there anyone who doesn't want? Or when I get to you, if you don't want me to touch you, just let me know. That's usually what I'll say, because they can usually hear when I get to them. And I got to the yoga teacher and I was about to kind of do my thing because she hadn't seen it, and she just said, no, please don't do that. And kind of I got a little bit of a fright. I thought, oh goodness, okay. Luckily I hadn't touched her yet, but obviously that was her journey. She didn't want any adjustments, which is also fine. But it was probably the first time a student said to me, no, don't. And then she'd been coming for months. And maybe after 2-3 months, again, we're in the posture. And then she says, okay, I'm ready for you to do this. And so then very, very gently I did that, and it was oh, lovely, da 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 da. And then one day I got brave enough and I asked her, what was the story? Why did you not want me to touch you? Because she'd mentioned, oh, how delicious it was. And she said, no, she'd been to a yoga class once where they'd gone into Baddha Konasana, the cobbler, and the teacher had just come and pushed her thighs down without her asking, to get her deeper into her cobbler pose. And it had not necessarily torn, but it had really caused massive discomfort and a mild form of injury for her. And after that, she didn't want any teacher touching her in a class. And she had to kind of build the trust in me that I wasn't going to go in forcefully, but that what I was going to do was actually going to be harmonious and supportive to the body. So you really want to, you don't know where your students are coming from, what they've experienced in the past, what yoga class they've experienced in the past. So never, what I'm trying to say with this physical adjustments, don't feel, if a student says, no, I don't want to be touched, especially if it's a new student, don't feel that it's something that you've done or you haven't done. Know that it's probably got something to do with their story. And when we touch, we always want to touch again with purpose. And we just want a very light guidance. So we never want to yank or push or force anyone into a specific position. If what I generally love to do is just take the, my fingers, and like if I want them to lengthen their spine, maybe just gently draw my fingers up the back of their spine. If I want them to maybe extend more into a leg, I'll maybe literally just use an index finger and like stroke a little on like the top of their knee in the direction that I want them to go. I'll never actually forcefully do an adjustment. I might just like place my hand somewhere and say, okay, push or resist against this, or can you lengthen through that area a little bit more? So your touch is more of a guide for them. They're actually doing the work. You're not doing the work for them. This isn't like Thai yoga massage or anything like this. This is a yoga class where you want to empower your students so that they're able to make those movements and decisions. All right, so that's pretty much the way we would communicate with the students. Touch is a lovely thing. Don't be scared of it either. After all my stories, do touch students. Most students do enjoy that contact. But again, with COVID having been here and all that, just be mindful as to how close you're getting to students and which and who. If there are very nervous students who just don't like physical contact, just stay away from them. It's fine. They'll get it through the way you speak your instructions and the way you demonstrate. And you just keep repeating certain instructions in different ways to make things clear. All right. Teaching confidence. And next week, we're going to get into working towards a main pose safely. But teaching confidence, what happens is if our students feel safe, then pretty much we're doing a fantastic job and we're on the right track. So always take the safety of your student into account first. And that means like rather begin with doing more of a gentle class than trying to include too many impressive yoga postures or variations of postures or kind of like next level of postures. Just make it comfortable. And you can always kind of like up the ante with a deeper visualization, holding the posture for a little longer. So you need to get comfortable with the way you're teaching, let your students get comfortable with the way that you're teaching, and then build from there. Remember that yoga is a lifelong journey and practice. So there is no need to master anything at this point in time. Just practice. Practice it yourself, and practice speaking it, practice teaching it. That idea of yoga again is that we want to create union. We want to use the postures to bring us to a sense of balance. We want to use it as a form of healing and to kind of like build vitality and energy and stamina on not just a physical level, but our mental and emotional, as well as our spiritual evolution as well. So if you ever think that you're going too far, then you can always back it off. If you realize that it is getting a little too easy, then you can start including more challenging postures, but rather allow things to be too easy and for students to request that it becomes a little bit more challenging than for it to be too challenging and too overwhelming, and then that it just adds more stress onto your students' day-to-day kind of life instead of being the other way around. All right. 3 areas to focus on when you're teaching a class. I'm sure there are plenty more, but I would just like to focus on these one. One is the pace of the class. The second is the environment in which you're teaching. And the third one is class management. So when it comes to the pace of the class, it really needs to be natural to you and your personality as well. You want to make sure that obviously, since it's a yoga class, it's not like this speedster kind of like gym bunny type of thing that's happening, cardio workout. It is meant to be a gentle, fairly slow, somewhat restorative practice. If you're doing a morning practice, it is a bit more invigorating, but we're still more on the kind of like calmer side of exercise than on like the intense, hectic, go, 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 burn, 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 all you can do. So with that said, we really want to make sure that there's like a nice steady progression, like, you know, if you've started up off standing, that you're coming down eventually towards lying. If you're sitting, you're moving towards standing and then maybe coming back down. There are different ways of doing it. What you just want to avoid is that you're up and down and up and down and up and down, like standing, sitting, standing, lying, standing. You, like we saw with the Vinyasa Krama right at the beginning. It's just, you want it to progress smoothly and easy. It doesn't mean that you can't, you know, do a standing posture, do some seated postures, and then come up standing again if it's working with the sequence that you're wanting to do and the type of postures you want to do. But just don't make it completely higgledy-piggledy. All right. Like I was saying again, it's really nice to make sure that your evening sessions are a little slower, a little calmer, and a little bit more restorative, so that it helps people move into that kappa time of night and day, or kind of that kind of heavy, quiet, dense, delicious, kind of like family orientated time. And you want to help them kind of like slow down into that, so that they can have a restful and a good night's sleep. In the mornings, especially if you are teaching a class in the kappa time of day, like 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., the denseness of the day is fairly heavy then. So your morning classes can actually be quite invigorating, so that you're moving this energy somewhat, a little bit more, so that people don't just kind of like want to head home after your morning class, jump back into bed and fall asleep. Unless they've been sick and ill and rest is what they're needing, then that could be a perfect way of operating. So again, know what it is you're trying to achieve. All right. Know what you plan to teach, but be flexible enough to change it. So that's why in the beginning, it is extremely important to have a class plan together or an outline, but also just note who's coming to the class, and if kind of like the postures or what you've got planned for that class isn't going to be appropriate, be prepared enough to, or be flexible enough to be willing to unfollow your plan. But having a plan, and I promise you this, just having a sheet of paper next to your mat will take so much stress and anxiety out of teaching a class. Because if you ever get confused, you can just have a glance down, there's a posture there, it'll pop out to you, and you know kind of like where to go again. Even if you don't end up following it at all, or to a T, or anything like that, just having it there can often be really reassuring, and just a nice kind of like base or guide. So in the beginning, my suggestion is that always have it. With time, you'll probably lose, you know, you'll not need to have that there. I do still like having a rough idea of what I'm teaching. It does often change at this stage in kind of like my teaching career, but it is nice to have a little bit of a plan. All right. Build your confidence, and that just comes from practice, 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 teaching, teaching, teaching. One of the practices that I like to do is processing regret. So there are a number of times I have taught a yoga class and I would have thought, why did I teach that posture like that? Why did I do that sequence? How did I manage to have so much time left over? Why was I, you know, what happened that, you know, I ran out of time? Kind of like, oh, I could have done this, or I could have done this, or this person came and they had this injury and I did this posture and it wasn't great for them. And the best thing to do is to learn from your mistakes or what has happened, or something that you would have done differently, and acknowledge it. And then the next time it arises, implement it. That's the best way to learn. Don't wallow in this feeling of regret of, oh, I should have, I could have, you know, just take a moment, even if it means that you need to journal a little or make a couple of notes. Allow yourself to process it. Allow yourself to be human, and that we all do make mistakes. and use that then to kind of like motivate you forwards again, so that the next week you go to class, you know exactly kind of like what postures you want to bring to that group of students. And that is how, one, you build your confidence, and that is one way that students will also see that you are improving and that you're listening, that you're tuning in to what their needs are, and they'll keep coming back. All right, another one is know how to teach the postures and speaking while demonstrating. So this is a good thing to practice, that kind of like when you're at home and you're doing the postures, speak out aloud to yourself. When you're doing your Trikonasana, inhale, drawing the arms up, exhale, extend into your fingers, and you're literally talking through the postures, practicing it, so that you know how to teach. Just know how to teach a cat stretch where you're inhaling and there's gentle arch in the back, and as you're exhaling there's a rounding of the spine, and so that you're not kind of like in a class and you're now like, okay, what is the inhalation and what is the exhalation? Because I see that a lot with new students get completely confused. Okay, like, how do I inhale and how do I exhale? So know how to teach the postures and start and stick with the simple ones. And then as, again, your confidence builds, you can go and elaborate. You can make your sequences longer. You can make them more complex. But in the beginning, just get comfortable with, this is an inhalation, this is an exhalation. Once you've got that, then you can start adding twists, side bends, and whatever else you need to do. The reason why I also say it in that way is sometimes when after we've been teaching for years, we still sometimes teach a class where we are maybe a little frazzled or imbalanced ourselves. And if we're able to bring ourselves back to just the basic way of maybe teaching a sequence or a posture, and not all the variations and kind of the alternatives that can go with that sequence, it can help to, again, ground and balance ourselves, and we won't get confused with the calf. I've done this leg in this position, all, you know, this 5 set of things on this side, and now I've got to remember kind of like the 5 different things and do that on the left side as well. All right. And like I was saying, speaking while demonstrating, always just practice that and make sure that it's smooth and comfortable, so that kind of like as you're speaking and demonstrating, the inhalation is a natural, comfortable inhalation. And then when you're explaining the exhalation, it's a natural, comfortable exhalation for students to be, and that you're not taking like 5 minutes to talk about what the inhalation is and, you know, a minute what the exhalation is. Try and keep it in line with the rhythm of the breath. It makes for a really, really nicely paced class. All right, environment. Make sure that your environment is as quiet as possible and in line with the qualities of the style of yoga that you're teaching. So, you know, we like to teach a nice, calm, restorative, quiet, like center mind kind of internally. You want to go inwards based practice, and we just wanted the space to be harmonious. So we don't want it to be too busy with too much stuff lying around. We can't always control our environment, but we can do what we need to do to help, which means we can close the windows. We might want to bring music into the class. We might need to like lock the dogs away or give them a bone or something to keep them quietly busy with. You want to kind of like teach according to your environment and weather, and that we've covered quite a bit in the Ayurveda module as well. All right, and then the last one here is class management. So a lot of this is covered in professional development module. You want to be in a position where you can really handle difficult students. I've called them rebels here, but sometimes you just get challenging students. And if you have a little bit of, if you take time to maybe note down what your values are, what's important to you, it'll also help you determine how you handle students that are challenging. And maybe it's addressing them and speaking to whatever it is that they're doing with a little bit of care. And maybe there also needs to be some candor where you're just really explaining to them, like, this type of behavior is not acceptable. It's not what the studio is about. If you continue with this behavior, we're going to have to make alternative arrangements for you. Maybe it's a different class, maybe it's a private session, maybe you're leaving the studio, whatever the story is. But sometimes you do need to address students with a little bit more candor, because if they're upsetting the whole class with their attitude or the way they're doing certain things, it can be very unpleasant for the majority, and they're not going to get the benefit of what a yoga class is about. So sometimes it's important to maybe take the time in each class until maybe it's clear as to say, kind of like, these are the values we honor here. This is what we're about. This is what we all agreed to. It's not for you. Hit the road, Jack. All right. The one thing that I can say is, if something arises, don't just sweep it under the carpet. It's arising for a reason, and I suggest you address it and don't ignore it, because it will just come up again at a later stage. As you can see, this has been a recurring theme in my life. So when it comes to a challenge that arises, really just nip it in the bud from the get-go, because one, it'll give you confidence that you are able to do so, and two, it'll make it so much better for the rest of the class and the rest of the students. All right, what else have we got here? Starting and ending times, honoring those times. People have lives. They've got things to get to. They've got kids to pick up. They've got, shopping to do, dinner to get on the stove. I don't know, meetings to do. So just get strict with your times. Have your starting time, start on time, have an ending time, start and end on time. All right, starting times, ending times, just honoring your time, your students' time. They're often needy students. Sometimes they also stay after class and have 1,000,001 questions to ask, and you really need to learn to kind of like honor the space and the time, and they need to learn to respect that as well. So if there are kind of like needy students in that class who ask a lot of questions, you can always orient the class towards, in this class, we're really going to do introspective. We're going to ask ourselves the questions, because you often get students like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Is something wrong? Where should I be feeling it? And the practice of yoga is self-exploration, and that is really what you do want your students to start learning and practicing as well. Sometimes you will notice that there are some lazy students, and maybe they just need a little bit of, extra motivation and guidance, and, not quite singling out. You never want to single out anyone in a class, but you maybe just want to see if you can motivate them a little bit more. All right. And the last one here is when to refer students elsewhere. Often students will come and maybe they'll have like a physical problem. And that's really good when you refer them to like a yoga therapist or a remedial teacher or a physiotherapist, or know when to refer them to a doctor. You sometimes also have students who have massive psychological issues and traumas, and it's always good to have a network of kind of like people you can refer students to if they have any struggles or challenges, so that they can go see a psychiatrist, they can go see a psychologist, they can go see a counselor, someone who you would know, someone who you know that you trust would maybe work with them in a smart way. We always share our contacts with each other. So if you ever come across, or have worked with someone who's a good psychologist, or I don't know, a good naturopath or a functional medicine person, share it with the rest of your colleagues, so that if they have a student who is struggling and would need to be referred to someone, you have a reliable list of resources that you can use. All right. And that is it for class management. What I would like us to get back to now is just have a little look at how we use our voice and expression in our yoga class when it comes to spoken instructions. All right, I'm going to stop the screen share. We're going to come down onto our mat, and I would just like you to kind of like explore some of these instructions with me. I think they're going to become very self-explanatory in a sense. It's just my cursor. All right, so come to a seated position. And take 3 breaths in and out. Breathe in and breathe out. All right, now I'd like you to do the same, but I would like you to just notice when your body invites the inhalation in, and allow the inhalation to be smooth. And notice when the body is ready to exhale, and allow the exhalation to be long. And you do that twice more. You're finding and you're connecting to the rhythm of your breath. Noticing when your body wants to inhale. And noticing when your body wants to exhale. All right. So did you notice kind of like the 2 different ways? There was no wrong way with saying kind of like right at the beginning when I was saying, inhale for 3 breaths, exhale for 3 breaths. It's okay. But could you tell that when you gave an invitation to your body, and when I said like notice how it feels to inhale, and inhale to what is comfortable for you, and then you exhale, that it kind of like settles the nervous system a little bit more. Right. Let's try another thing. All right, taking the arms out to the sides. Inhale, bring the arms up overhead. And exhale, bring the arms back down. And do that twice more. Inhale, bring the arms up overhead. Exhale, bring the arms back down. All right, so in this demonstration again, you're doing what I'm wanting you to do. But now, inhale and lengthen through the shoulder blades. Take the arms up slowly. Feel the full length of the breath as the fingertips gently touch. And when you're ready to exhale, allow the arms to float down slowly, lengthening through and out from the shoulder blades. Inhale, feel the breath lifting the arms, reaching the arms up. And as you exhale, imagine pushing the arms down through water, feeling how they active. As you inhale, feel a lovely green light from your heart center spreading across your chest, into your arms, right up into your fingertips as they meet at the top. And as you exhale, feel that light returning back to your heart center as you bring your arms back down. All right, so there are different ways of teaching the same posture and different ways in expressing it. Some students like a more body and anatomical explanation, where kind of like, can you lift kind of like from the shoulder blades, drawing the arms up, reaching into the arm. Some students like the sensation of feeling. So can you feel a lightness drawing the arms up, and can you feel as if you're pushing down through the water? Like some students really connect with the sensation. Some students really connect with color and kind of like really feeling that the color is coming from a certain part of the body. So when you start to get to know your students and how they like to, and how they're able to do the posture in a more kind of like intuitive and comfortable way, you will know what kind of language to use and also what kind of language feels comfortable for you to use. What makes you feel happy in the class. If you're not the person who normally uses florally language in your day-to-day life, then don't use it in your class because it's not going to be you. If you are more of like an anatomical based person, then you can really explore that, but make it accessible to students. Don't talk about kind of like feeling the insertion of the bicep lifting. This you may be speaking with like, you know, medical students, but you want it to be really relevant to most. All right. Another example, let's take a twist. Bring your left hand to your right leg, right arm behind you. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, twist, and push as far as you can into your twist. Going as deep as you can, pushing, pushing, pushing. Inhale, come back to the center. And exhale, over to the other side. And again, push yourself as far as you can into your twist. Push, 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 push. Inhale, coming back to the center. So you pretty know what I'm doing. Can tell what I'm demonstrating here. Let's try that again. Whereas you inhale, you're lifting and you're lengthening. And on your exhalation, take yourself into a twist where you bring your left hand to your right leg and your right arm. Close your eyes, and on your inhalation, allow your spine to lengthen. And if your body is ready and it's inviting you to twist a little bit further on your exhalation, you can allow that twist to happen naturally, but only if your body is comfortable and ready. Feel the breath. Allow the breath to guide the movement. On your next inhalation, bring yourself back to the center. Exhale, same thing to the other side, right hand to the outside of your left leg, left arm behind you. Feel how the spine can spiral up to the ceiling on that inhalation, and on the exhalation, if it feels right, allow the breath to draw you into a twist. Allow the focus to be at the crowns, at the third eye center. And feel that there is comfortable lightness and ease within the body. On an inhalation, bring yourself back to the center. Exhale, release. All right. Change the cross of the legs for a moment. All right. Inhale, and as you exhale, walk your hands forwards. It is so hard to try and demonstrate, use language that you're not used to using. All right, push back through the sitting bones. Push the chest down towards the ground. And then inhale, coming back up. All right, let's try again. Inhale, lengthen the spine. As you exhale, allow the body to melt forward. Feel that you can extend the sitting bones back and down as if you've got a heavy tail that's been drawn backwards, feeling the stability in the base. And allow your upper body to melt and melt and melt with each exhalation. Notice that there's a softness in the body. And again, the breath is your guide. And then we really inhale, coming back up. All right, so the language we use in our yoga classes and to demonstrate postures is really important. This kind of thing of like, inhale the arms up, exhale the arms down, you know, inhale up, exhale to the side. In is fine, but you want to evolve your teaching so that it becomes a lot more comfortable, a lot more fluid, a lot more gentle. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is pace. And for example, you know, if we're demonstrating a cat stretch, a nice pace to do it is as you inhale, feel that you're able to lengthen spine, opening up, and as you exhale, you're rounding your spine, you're tucking under your chin and your tail. As you inhale, feel that you can press down through the shins and evenly through the feet. And as you exhale, you feel that you're drawing the navel towards the spine. So you're using like different focus points on the inhalation and the exhalation that students can focus on. It's really nice for working when you're working with intermediate students. Then if you go, okay, on your inhalation, make sure that your shins are pressing down, your hands are under your shoulders, your fingers are widely spread, feel that you're able to relax the abdomen, draw the shoulders away from the ears, make sure you're looking towards the front of the mat. And you're going and you're going and you're going. The students are like inhaling and inhaling and inhaling until they're about, pink in the face, purple in the face. And then you're doing the same thing as you exhale. Exhale, you're rounding spine. Feel that you can draw the navel in. Feel that you can exhale all the breath. You're still pushing down through the shins. You're going down through the hands. The inner aspects of your elbows are facing towards each other. You're pulling the chin into the throat. And you're going on and on and on. And the students are exhaling and exhaling and exhaling. And it doesn't become like a comfortable vinyasa where you're flowing from one position to the other. So you want to try and get the pace of how you're teaching the posture to be smooth, to be like the song. And the same is with the class. You don't want to start a class and you've got a whole hour to teach or an hour and a quarter to teach, and you're going slowly, slowly, slowly. And then all of a sudden you realize you've got like 20 minutes left and you've done like the first 5 postures of your class, and now you've got like another 5 to do, and then you kind of like rush through the rest because you want to get through all the postures on your piece of paper. Rather, if you stuck with a slow pace from the beginning, then allow the whole class to be like that and just kind of like choose the postures to eliminate. Also, you don't want a class to be completely like slow and where students start to fall asleep and to check out. So there needs to be like a rhythm to your class. Like I like to liken it to like a pulsation. The whole universe is always pulsating. There's an inhalation and there's an exhalation. There's maybe a slight increase in pace, and then there might be a slight kind of like decrease in pace, especially when you're doing the counter poses where it's more introspective and quiet. And then again, there's maybe like a little bit of a busyness, or maybe it goes a little faster, and then there's like a quietening down. So it needs to be comfortable, but you don't want it to be, like all haphazard. It needs to be smooth and even. So that is what I wanted to chat about with regards to pace. And I think that is all. We'll definitely be exploring more of these concepts with my colleagues in your face-to-face sessions. But for now, this will be enough for you to keep an eye out for when you go to classes and when you start teaching the classes as well. All right, everyone. Namaste. Have a beautiful day, and I'll catch you in our next lesson.